Good afternoon, everyone. So we are back with our panel discussions. A day full of PW Education's Edu Next Summit 2024. So before I start the panel, actually, firstly, if everyone can give a warm welcome to all our panelists, since we know you all can clap. So with you have something? Okay. So with
I'll just take a second. Excuse me, can you please turn on the timer? Thank you.
So, we have a lot of experts in our panel this time. All our senior panelists all have wealth of experience. They know their stuff right. And just before I was starting this panel, I met all of them individually. All of them are super confident. I have changed a couple of things here and there, and they all are very happy with it. So, when a topic is how EdTech is transforming the education industry, me being a millennial, I am seeing this transformation, this never-ending transformation that is taking place. And we were studying in schools and colleges institutions where it was very simple. It was books were there. We had libraries to go to. We were, skimming through a lot of pages and seeing. But with the emergence of tech, and especially during COVID that we saw, and what we witnessed is the tech side helped a lot in reaching out to students, in helping them to get onto a lot of things. But again, there are challenges. So, opening the session firstly, I would request all of you to give a brief introduction along with your insights on how do you see EdTech amalgamating with the academia. So, if we start with you.
Hi, so my name is Nirvaan Birla. I'm the founder of Brainiacs, which is a online schooling platform. We have students in over 28 countries in the world, and we are a 3-year-old company. So I think my thoughts on this topic would be, that technology and edtech is always sort of like a supplement to the traditional method of education. And I think it can be used as an accelerator and an insight finder to education in all ways. I don't think it can ever completely replace traditional schooling methodologies and that human touch. But that being said, I think it's made leaps and bounds in the past few years. In terms of data analytics, it's helped a lot of teachers to assess what students' strengths are, their weaknesses are, their learning outcomes are. It's helped students themselves to pick which teachers they can grow the best with, who they can learn the quickest with. And of late, very recently now with metaverse and all gaining a lot of speed, I think that will fully revolutionize the education and the edtech sector because it will make learning much more engaging for the students, even though they are sitting at home, on their devices or they're sitting on their phones. They feel like they're actually immersed in the full experience. I don't know if you all guys have tried the Meta goggles out, but when I tried them out, it didn't feel like I was in that room anymore. It felt like I was somewhere else. And of course, there's a lot of time for that to get fully adapted into education. But I think it's coming soon. So yeah, just to cap off, I think it's a very good supplement and accelerator to the education sector. And it has to be balanced as a hybrid model with digitization and physical classes and human interaction.
Thank you, Nirvaan. Sameer, so if we come to you, you also talked about metaverse and we were talking earlier about it as well. So how do you take it? And also if you could start with the platform films.
So first of all, I would like to thank the management and the organization called BW Businessworld, and it's a privilege for me to be here amongst all the intellectuals. And I have been listening to teachers, professors, technocrats, and I am an academician basically, and forced into administration later, part of my life. 30 years I have been into academia as an academician, as an administrator. I started my career as a teacher. Now I am the dean of two schools in Presidency University. One is School of Computer Science and Engineering, other is School of Information Science, and put together we have 9,200 students in that. And I have seen from the beginning of my career the efficacies of teaching and what makes a teaching learning process more effective and what is missing in the classrooms. And we started basically from an era where we only had something called overhead projector. We used to make transparencies out of permanent markers, and that was what we were very proud of when we were carrying in our hand. And now things are transformed into so much and so high level that now we have AI based educational platforms. So what I feel is that my thoughts resonate with Mr. Birla's thought. Yes, technology is a teaching aid, it cannot replace a teacher. Point number one. Point number two, the best things what I can recollect out of working with various platforms is that the unbiased kind of assessments can be, one good part of the teaching learning platforms. Thirdly, the meticulous, approach towards assessing the students, and one good thing is the analytics it generates, and the best thing is the gamification it has brought, which makes learning more interesting. So these are the good things what I can talk about. Technology that is done in education. So I will just stop here with my perspective, and let us, based upon the questions coming, we can then talk about challenges and other things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rana, if I come to you, how do you take your opening comments on the amalgamation of academia and edtech together, transforming the education system?
Thanks. Myself, Dr. Rana Singh. I represent Chandragupt Institute of Management, Patna. Before this, I was serving as Vice Chancellor of Sanskriti University, Mathura for 4 years. My views on this are a balanced view in terms of, if we look at the NEP expectation that we need to reach 50% gross enrollment ratio in higher education and 100% in primary and secondary education, the EdTech is going to play a big enabler, facilitator and catalyzer. I repeat, enabler, facilitator and catalyzer, without which we will not expect to accomplish the envisioned goals by 2035 and 2050 of meeting the gross enrollment ratio. This is part one. This is from the quantitative dimension. From the qualitative dimension, yes, EdTech, they are playing a transformational role in terms of offering of academic delivery. My previous speakers, they were talking about how technology can play as more and more engaging experience, enlightening experience, and ensuring gamification is one. We talk about virtual learning experience. We talk about simulated environment, which can also help towards sustainability. So, the closing remarks, yes, it's going to be one of the indispensable component of academic delivery. In the initial stages, it would be facilitator, catalyzer, but in the years to come, we may actually see the migration of the physical school towards e-school and online school. And the physical schools will gradually become a different model to support the online teaching process and so on and so forth. I'm talking about the future next 40 to 100 years. Over to you.
Thank you. Etinder sir, your comments?
My name is Etinder. I am Deputy Professor of Marketing at Apeejay School of Management, Worker New Delhi. First, thanks, Manji is on our board also for inviting me. Am I audible? Yes. So, thank you for inviting me. With August panel sitting here and the August audience. So, my take is everything hunky-dory? Probably not. Is technology or edtech companies magic or Aladdin's lamp, probably not. Issue is, yes, we have seen the transformative effect of tech. If let me give you a very skewed example of management education. So when it comes to management education, I've seen, first time I taught in a classroom was 97. We were talking about, as Mr. Sameer was talking about OHP. That was the only tech we had. Then we saw first time that at that moment the teacher used to take pride in that mujhe aata hai and I am the sage on the stage. And then what happened is we saw a transformation where we say that as teacher, we are not the one who should actually take the onus only of the, we cannot say that maine padha diya wo agle ko aana chahiye. That is something which we used to be able to do. And then we thought that, okay, there's something called assurance of learning. So when I am teaching in the class, I take responsibility that my students, so it's like nobody is left behind. So I'm the speed of the caravan is decided by the slowest camel. So when we are reaching there, that is where tech is coming. I've probably come to that. That is immense role tech can play is when we are talking of personalized learning and all that. Incidentally, when Sameerji was talking about gamification, but we are talking of personalized student journey maps. So that is something which tech is going to play a very important role. When it comes to content, see, what I am primarily seeing is most of the edtech companies are becoming content companies anymore. So what they are trying to do, they are trying to replace a teacher. Sorry to say, you can't take away my job. I am not going to let you do that, right? And there's a reason for that, is that a teacher is required in the classroom. Otherwise, if it would have been so easy, why do we send our students? See, how many as parents, I did try with my son, I told him not to go to school, he said, no, I want to go to school. I said, 8वीं में डाल देंगे, सीधा मस्ती में. पढ़ने का सब कुछ whatever.
I'll come to this.
Right? So point is what all. So I'm trying to open a Pandora box here, is taking the other people's view. Right? So issue is, yes, as Dr. Rana said, that it's amazing enabler. We are using simulation. I'm using simulations now. That is, so when we are talking about experiential learning, if I can't take my student out in the business world, I can actually, the tech can help me with that. But is tech the miracle thing that is going to solve it all? Probably not. So we'll discuss about that. This is where we are close, and I.
Atul sir, your comments.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Anurag's team and Businessworld to invite me for this session. I'm Atul Bharat and I'm working in academia from the last 30 years, and I'm in skilling, career development, and I handled very minutely to the transformation of children and students from X to X dash. The first thing is that NAP is going to rule the world on, or giving India a perspective into the education should be on learning based. And when it's learning based, digital is not only the base to learn. We as an Indian society develop our children into a very different cognitive atmosphere and environment. And their emotion and feelings are very important for a child to learn and to understand. And as we go to the philosophical way of that, so we can understand that the mother is the first teacher. So you can't make mother digital. And similarly, you can't make teacher as a digital. Child learns through his cognitive experiences, exposure and observations. A digital can't give everything to him. I do agree digitalization will be giving a new edge to alpha generation. And we all have to change with alpha generation. They are more digital. We have to adopt them because else there will be a huge generation gap into the teachers and the children. We have to adopt them, but Indian education system will be running in hybrid mode where even 20% teachers interference will be required even if we go 80% digital. But yes, digital will play a role for learning experience.
Thank you all of you for your opening comments. So there was one point very strongly said that e-schools will change the dimensions. There will be different models that will be adapted. Therefore, we also spoke about how the experience of human, like real teachers, are necessary because a lot of times with the growing generations, as Atul sir was also talking about, that Gen Alpha, when it comes to the day, Gen Z is already very technologically advanced, more than millennials or Gen X or any other generations. And while we are seeing Gen Alpha from the very beginning of their life, they are engrossed with tech. The first thing they have in their hand is mobile phone. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, don't want to comment on that. But yes, that is there. But with esports, that human touch, that what we learn, because there's a lot of rote learning also that comes along. So, how do you think that there will be a perfect blend? What, according to you, is the perfect blend that needs to be required in order to enhance the experience, as Etinder sir was also talking about it. So, Rana, Dr. Rana, if I ask you about it, because you had a very stressful thought on it. So, your comments on it.
Well, I'll touch the theme and then come to your question. The theme says EdTech transforming the Indian education system. Well, yes, I'll give you, there are three prime components in academic delivery which we talk about: teaching, learning and assessment. Most of the Ivy League universities of the world, they have dedicated centers of excellence on teaching, learning and assessment. In India, we do not have seen emergence of much of these centers. However, as teachers, we are doing our best in the class, but the challenge which we have in front of us to segregate the base of learning of the students and their understanding, their learning and their internalization. However, the technology plays a phenomenal role in differentiating what is the pace at which the class is learning, especially when they are pursuing an online class or they are going through a self-instructional material and they are taking the test on a real-time basis. So we are able to differentiate who are the slow learners, who are the medium-paced learners and who are the fast learners. So unlike in the routine academic delivery process, most of the Indian higher educational institutions do not have the component of formative assessment. Internationally, there's a culture of summative assessment and formative assessment. Just for a better understanding, formative assessment are those assessments in which the students are given a feedback. If you write an answer like this would be your marks or grade, but this does not get reflected in the final report card. So most of the higher educational institutions do not practice formative assessment, which is not a very appreciable practice. So the EdTech organizations, they have online examination system. They can differentiate between people who have understood, people who have not. People who have understood slowly, people who have understood at a medium pace, people who have understood at a faster pace. Well, in India, I have not come across any of the higher education institutions talking about point biserial coefficient or difficulty index of the question. So internationally, most of the Ivy League universities, if they are practicing the objective type questions, they try to find out what is the difficulty index of the question and what has been the pace at which the students have been understanding. What has been the point biserial coefficient so that they can understand, is there a time and opportunity to improve the quality of academic delivery, interventions required for the student and so on. So technology is playing a phenomenal role. It's giving immediate statistical results which otherwise as a teacher, if we start doing it, it will take us days and weeks and months and we will not be able to. So it is transforming in a phenomenal way.
Perfectly explained actually. So since you mentioned that that a lot of institutions do not really follow that formative assessment. They do not follow it yet. But with EdTech, of course, it's undoubtedly transforming the education system. But it's also in its growing phase. It's in its learning phase. But again, since I mentioned that human touch, it can be an enabler, but it definitely cannot replace humans. So if I say, Etinder sir, your take on this, that how do you figure that the perfect blend is required? Because tech, of course, is required. But if humans can be replaced, if humans are making tech, but if they can be replaced, what's the use of it?
If I cannot say that they cannot, there would be time we may have a digital teacher who would have all the world's best knowledge available to you. You are in a holographic setting. If I am getting into sci-fi, I am getting into a little sci-fi kind of a situation here. Is that we all are sitting, we are all holograms, and you have that digital teacher available to you agreed with all the data component which is available here. But let me put another question here: is would it make us more human? That is one. Everything. See, whatever I want to learn today, it's available, I guess, on YouTube, so I can see the video. But have we learned? So I personally feel many of us, this is what we were talking at lunchtime also, is feeling that if I can put the content out there, and if it is an amazing content, people will learn. But sorry to say, learning is, yes, as a teacher, I don't want to be a boring teacher. I want to be an interesting teacher and try my level best to be an interesting teacher. I show videos in the classroom that has enabled me. What I can do is I can invite, let's say, somebody, he's a founder of a tech company. We have founder Mr. Birla here. I can ask him to come and join my session for 10 minutes over a Zoom class. That was not available to me, which I am doing right now. I use simulations that give them instant feedback. But point here is when I am looking at larger picture here, is tech is going to do that? How would tech help me become more creative? How would it help me creating solutions for a problem which don't exist at this point of time? How would we do that? Right? So the point I am trying to make here is, yes, sir is saying, Dr. Rana is that okay, forward. See, we've been doing this for a lot of accredited colleges have been doing this formative and the summative assessments, yes. But is it making, so how can I as a teacher be sure that this is certain learning outcome? There is a program. So I am running an MBA program. These are my certain program outcomes. Kya mere program padhne ke baad the student is going to be an amazing executive in the world? How would I make sure that? Is tech is going to help me then? If yes, I am all for it. So suggestion to all the edtech companies here, can you create that? So issue is you are helping me doing things faster, making me efficient. But are you going to make me better teacher in that classroom? If yes, I guess as teachers we'll give our, we'll cut our limbs to be that in the
So, Nirvaan, when we come to Birla Brainiacs, you are actually utilizing that aspect of EdTech to be very core. Right now, you mentioned also that students can, select the teachers whom they want to, be educated by. What is your take? But how important does it become to you when it comes to human touch? Because of course, when you're schooling times also, you would have also that teacher-student interaction, face-to-face interaction. It does have an impact on the students, which somehow I still feel is lacking when it comes to that digitization coming over. How can you progress to it that, okay, the student needs to understand, how do you assess that, okay, the student is listening or the student is, competitive enough to understand? Because face-to-face, of course, when a teacher asks, okay, what is this? What is that in the classroom? Like we are having it right now. So there is a different stance to it. The student has that in mind. Like, honestly, I remember in my class 12, I did not know something, I wasn't paying attention. But she just questioned me, and still today I know when India-China war happened. So, on those notes, that cannot happen. What is your take on that perfect blend of human touch and EdTech being an enabler in the education system?
So actually that's a great question because that's the exact question I asked myself before I started Brainiacs. And that's the question which led me to start the company, because actually the other business I do, which I'm also the managing director of, is Birla Open Minds, which is a group of over 150 schools in India. And that's how so I started my professional journey with Birla Open Minds, heading Birla Open Minds, and I got to know, from the grassroots level, the best methods of learning, the best styles of learning, how teachers are super essential and academicians are super essential in nurturing students, not just in your core subjects and your skills, but also a lot of life skills of how they'll actually go out there in the world and survive, which cannot be achieved only by tech. So that's the question I asked myself, and I agree with all my other panelists that it has to be a hybrid model. It cannot just be a tech-based model. It has to be a hybrid model, which is what we sort of integrated in Brainiac. So, and I'm talking from my own personal life experience here, that after I introduced the hybrid model, and the hybrid model is basically once in 15 days, all my learners on the platform of Brainiacs, there's a physical activity curated for them, whether it's in dance, music, whether it's a lab experiment. So they either visit a center near them or one of my schools, and they interact with the rest of the students, over 5,000 students, which are divided into different groups. And they actually engage in a learning activity. So the most recent one we organized for them in December was we tied up with the football academy, and basically they were asked questions in algebra, and they had to actually shoot the ball at the right answer in the goal. So that's how they were taught, multiple skills through that activity. And through these hybrid activities that happen for them every 15-20 days, their social and their emotional skills also sort of develop, which they cannot get only from screen. So I think that is the key. And I think that is the future also. It's going to be a hybrid model with less infrastructure required for sure, but some infrastructure and physical world experience is required. And then on the other hand, to extend that answer, I'd also like to say that, that tech, even though of course the role of the teacher, the role of the physical educator face-to-face is super important, something would have never been able to be achieved without the role of tech. So the whole sector of education has only taken such leaps and bounds. For example, I have some students in Visakhapatnam, I have some students in Abu Dhabi, I have some students in Norway as well. Now, the student in Norway is getting access to a teacher from India who's a professional in accounts and financial literacy, which he would have never been able to do, because as we all know, Indian accountants are the best, right? So he would have never been able to get that access before. A student in Visakhapatnam is getting access to an IGCSE Cambridge level teacher who can also progress him further to actually graduate from a Cambridge institution, which they would have never been able to achieve without the role of tech, without the role of live two-way interactions, without the role of analytics and the whole tech enabler. So I think yes, it has to be a hybrid model balancing both worlds.
Lovely, lovely. So, so when we're talking about, since we're talking about EdTech, and since you have expertise in the application of it, can you make us go through that application, that how does it work in that EdTech sector? How is this transforming? How is this inducing? Go very deeply into the education system.
So I would like to, make some stark differences between the conventional model of teaching and how EdTech has transformed it. I think most of our teachers have not yet evolved to a level where they can be called as effective teachers. Yeah. Because still we go with rote learning in many of the schools and colleges. And how many of you have heard and implemented something called revised Bloom's taxonomy? So this is an area where many of the teachers still fumble, to talk about it or to implement it, right? And I would not say that this EdTech is something which will lead to hybrid learning. I can say that EdTech will be very good friends of a teacher. And again, I repeat that it cannot replace a teacher. So I'll just go to the nitty-gritties of it now, because when ChatGPT kind of application came into the market, teachers were panicked at what will happen about the assignments, because people were able to generate the code, people will generate the essays and all those things. But there was a society of thinkers who showed the way to us that this technology can be outwitted. Like for example, ChatGPT can be used for outlines, right? And the teachers can definitely outwit this when it comes to personalization. So a student, you ask to write an essay, he may take it from ChatGPT. But when you ask him to put his personal experiences in that essay, then ChatGPT will not work there. So that's how the blend should be like. We need to flex the teaching in that manner. And this will happen only when we talk about the core academicians who are well versed with the nitty-gritties of the academics. So, for example, let there be a concept of robot teaching our students. I would like to strike the chords of all the teachers here. You will correlate with me that when we teach in a class, we can see the faces of the students and understand how effective we are. And when we see that we are not trying to generate the interest in the class, we suddenly flex our teaching and we move into some topic which brings interest back into the students. So the engaging the students with our content, what we prepare meticulously, understanding the nitty-gritties of testing the different cognitive levels of the students. This requires a lot of evolution in the edtech side. It's something like the edtech models are not built by core academicians. They are built by smart technocrats, and that's where the bridge is, or the gap is. And this gap is still not narrowed down. It's still wide gap. Thing is, like I have a good friend here, Dr. Nitya Prakash. He has a tech company and I am an advisor into it. Why did he take me as an advisor? Because he knows I am not a technocrat, I am an academician. Because he knew that hand in hand, a technocrat and academician can only bring an effective teaching learning platform, wherein all these revised Bloom's taxonomies, assessing the students in all cognitive levels, the 6 cognitive levels, keeping in mind the outcome-based education model. What is the beauty of formative assessments? Rather than having a post-mortem report at the end of the exam semester by having summative assessments. These all things can be brought into technology only by an academician. And what I feel is, most of the teachers are taking this edtech as a kind of escape route, developing complacency and depending more on it. Like I am behind the teachers from past 19-20 years to not be dependent on the PPTs, because they take PPTs as a kind of Bible. Students also think that contents of the PPT itself is syllabus, and that way they escape from preparation. See, when we joined teaching, our professors used to say, Sameeruddin, if you want to teach for 1 hour, prepare for 4 hours. And I thought some days back that it's an outdated kind of preaching any professor, senior professor can give. But believe me, I was going through one of the interview of a IIT professor, IIT Bombay professor, Sameeruddin. He was telling me that being at a professor level till today, I prepare for 8 hours to take 1 hour of class. Can edtech bring that difference? I think no, because please understand, ChatGPT is designed by a person who never used ChatGPT, right? So now you know the.
Sum this up, like in the application form, like because you mentioned about conventional and traditional digital education system. If you sum this up, like how would the application, how has it made a difference?
See, the difference is, as I will say, we can have this. Learning platforms or LMS as an aid to the teacher in having multiple levels of assignments. Because once we put the logic in it, we need not have that tedious job of doing things again and again, right? Unbiased evaluation is one, right? And putting AI component, we can add up this different levels of testing a student, like easy, intermediate, and difficult. This is not possible instantly by a teacher.
It has potential.
It has the potential. And then finally, when you see, our students are loving immediate gratification, right? So you have a software called Clicker software, which can be used in the classroom, where a student need not wait for his results for 40 days. He will immediately see what is the result, whether his answer is correct or wrong. Flipped classes are there, where I just like to take a little bit more time to explain this. In flipped class, what basically happens? Conventional model of teaching is that you give difficult assignments for a student to do at home, and you make him learn the concept in the classroom. Actually, the student requires more of the teacher support for those assignments, right? Since he is unable to solve the problems or assignments you are given, he will take the aid of his friend or something, or tuition teacher, go to the coaching centers, right? This will further involve in malpractice. So flipped classes like technology, what it does is, he learns the concept at home, but the difficult part of it, of practicing or solving problems will be done at the school level or the college level.
So we are a little short of
Yeah,
time.
last thing I would like to say, because I see enthusiastic teachers here. The role of a teacher will definitely be difficult in the coming years. Activity-based learning, for example, reduces the delivery of a teacher in the classroom and makes him more as a consultant or facilitator. He should not be happy that वो जो सुबह से शाम तक हम लोग बोलते रहते वो कम हो गया. वो कम जरूर हो गया है आपका बोलना, लेकिन आपका जो काम बढ़ गया है वो higher level side है, जहाँ पे you have to meticulously design the activity and then you become a teacher, which is a facilitator or an enabler of knowledge. So he can then say that yes, technology has come to my aid, and we hand in glove can make teaching more effective and more efficient. That's what I can say. So yes, that's what. Thank you so much.
So, Atul, my next question to you is that when we talk about EdTech, how do you think EdTech solutions has contributed in bridging the gap in say this educational systems in India, especially when we talk about tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. Tier 1 city, of course, everything, all advancement is there, but how is it bridging the gap between the tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
See, as for the need of the education system in the NEP policies, the academicians have to redefine their teaching methodologies. There will be a huge paradigm shift into teaching methodologies of a teacher. One thing I would like to quote that two things are required, the why and how. The why is of teacher and how is of EdTech. Now, when we talk about EdTech, how will be 20% by teacher and 80% by EdTech. And teachers will be using the repositories of EdTech to facilitate students to learn and understand how to do things. But the important role of the teacher is to make them understand why we have to read this. और सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है हमारे इंडिया में कि हम हमारे बच्चों को why पूछने का अधिकार नहीं देते और इसीलिए भारत एक प्रोडक्ट डेवलप्ड नेशन नहीं है. We are in service economy. We only had taught them with how. We never taught them with why. Teachers has to facilitate with why, and they should use the repositories of EdTech. Now, tier 2, tier 3 it will be difficult because regional dialects and bilingual materials are not available everywhere. EdTech have a huge market, which is going to be doubling by 2030, and EdTech have a huge scope to develop, but they have to go into lot of content development, lot of repositories, which will take another 1 decade. So by 2030, 2035, you can say tier 1, tier 2 will be enablers into a better hybrid mode, but tier 3 will still not. It will take years to develop those content, because when a teacher comes to the class, he brings 20 to 30 years of experience, exposure, observation, methods, methodologies, and so many things, which EdTech will never bring. So that will be the gap in tier 3 and tier 2.
But still, you also think it might have a potential with EdTech coming into the system?
Yeah.
It can reach out to us.
There is a huge business, and education is not business.
I love that line.
It's emotion and feelings. इंडिया में डॉक्टर कलेक्टर बन जाता है, कंप्यूटर साइंस होटेलियर बन जाता है, और मैं आपको एक बहुत कड़वी चीज बताता हूँ. हम कंप्यूटर साइंस में उसको ऐप बनाना सिखाते हैं, वेबसाइट बनाना सिखाते हैं, कोड करना सिखाते हैं, प्रोग्राम करना सिखाते हैं, और ये कंप्यूटर साइंस है ही नहीं. क्योंकि व्हाइट हैट जूनियर में 7वीं क्लास के बच्चे को जावा प्रोग्रामर बना दिया, वो एप्लीकेशन बना रहा है. हमने बच्चों को ये नहीं दिया कि फेसबुक 100 करोड़ लोगों को न्यू ईयर के दिन 11:59 पे मैसेज करने की वो कोडिंग कैसे करता है, वो सर्वर कैसे यूज होता है. नेटफ्लिक्स पिछले 10 सालों में सिर्फ 6 सेकंड के लिए बंद हुआ. उससे 10 साल पहले 6 घंटे के लिए वेबसाइट डाउन हुई थी. Had we given that thought to the student, why Netflix is running smoothly with what codes, what programs, what servers? तो हम नौकरशाही में बड़े हुए और हम सर्विस बेस्ड इकोनॉमी में हैं, हम प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड इकोनॉमी में हैं नहीं. EdTech is going to bring that product based. पिछले 2-3 सालों से आप जो देख रहे हो, there is a transformation. And yes, we will be a product nation, but not right now, after 10 years. And EdTech will support that product nation to us.
Understood. Thank you so much. So, okay, quickly, because we hardly have time. So quickly, if I count on, because since again, Nirvaan, since you spoke about Birla Maniacs, Birla Open Minds, immersive experiences. So when that comes into the experiences come into the play, what is that one challenge you find in the sector? One challenge, everyone please. One challenge that you find that there is a role to play with EdTech.
I think the one challenge, like going back to tier 2 and tier 3s, I agree with what you said about tier 3. Actually, I think it's a long time before EdTech can catch up there, because it's about affordability and accessibility. Now the data boom has not really hit tier 3 so much, and even the infrastructure to support hybrid learning over there is not really developed yet. So I think that is one major challenge with tier 3. With tier 1 and tier 2, I think the real challenge is, I think, the amount of people in the space as of now. Because there are so many, EdTech players right now in the space, especially after COVID and lockdown post 2020. Everyone wanted to get into EdTech. So like a lot of these small companies mushroomed and came up in that time. And they started offering a lot of, different sorts of solutions which confuse the parents only. So I think that was one difficulty, because to win the trust back of the parents was also a big challenge after a lot of these companies, came and then went. So it sort of shook the belief of parents in the EdTech sector. So I actually spoke to a couple of parents last week who were on my platform only. And I asked them, like, I have this monthly kind of meeting with them to take their feedback, to see where we can improve, one with the teachers and one with the parents. So the parents were actually telling me that basically 70 to 80% of the reason why they are renewing every year, why they are sort of staying on board with us, is because of the quality of the teaching. So it's less to do with the technological aspect of the platform. It's less to do with the gamification of the platform. It's more to do with how the teachers are identifying and really giving face time to the students and catering to their different student needs also, because of the batch size. Because we have very small batch sizes. So I think in EdTech the major challenge is not finding the right set of quality teachers to come, because your teachers are your main stakeholders over there. Without them it cannot run. The app is just sort of, the platform is supporting them. So I think you need, as you also said, you need like academicians heading the whole, the vertical, sort of monitoring. So you have teacher monitoring sessions. So every time the teacher is teaching a live session, you need very high quality experts monitoring the sessions, seeing where they're going right, seeing where they're going wrong. And I think you need very small quality focus groups of students. Like I think beyond 20-30 students for one teacher in an online setting, it loses its whole purpose, because it doesn't become engaging. You can't really analyze, assess and all of that. So these are two main challenges I think in the EdTech sector which need to be solved.
Rana sir, I know you have been waiting for a long time, but what according to you, sir, one challenge you will say that there is with the EdTech system?
One of the biggest challenge which the EdTech is facing is the regulatory compulsion. They are not given the rights to grant degrees, diplomas, which at times they are in much better position to prepare the students. So if we look at the Eklavya mode and the Arjunian mode, so even though Eklavya could excel par excellence in his skills, but though he was not having the recognition of being a disciple of Dronacharya. So regulatory dimension is one. This is high time the government should think of giving a level playing field to the online or the edtech platforms, which should be outcome based. Let there be a common testing body like NTA, which can take the exam of 10th, 12th, graduation, and let the students coming from a state university, central university, or an edtech platform come and appear for the exam. So the level playing field, one, is missing. Second, the regulatory component of allowing X institutions or universities to start online education and Y cannot. And EdTech cannot grant degrees, so there's a big skewed dimension of, so that's one of the biggest challenges. The sooner we do it, the faster we can accomplish the envisioned goals in much more efficient and effective manner.
Lovely, thank you. Etinder sir, your the one challenge.
Okay, I personally feel the challenge of EdTech is EdTech themselves. मैं ये बात नहीं मानता कि डिजिटल डिवाइड है वो डिजिटल टियर 3. India is the biggest number one user of Facebook is India. WhatsApp 467 million users. Instagram सबसे ज़्यादा कंट्री कौन यूज कर रहा है हम कर रहे हैं. कहाँ से कर रहे हैं हर एक को पता है. So if you are saying that you are not able to reach to the hinterland is not accessing the or hinterland of India is not has the access to digital, it's bullshit. It's crap. Where are all these users are coming from? वो बिहार में छोटे से गांव में बैठ के रीलें बना रहे हैं. तो वो आपका पढ़ क्यों नहीं सकता भाई? बिल्कुल पढ़ सकता, आप पढ़ा नहीं रहे. आप पढ़ाना चाहते ही नहीं, उस तक जाना चाहते क्योंकि उसके पास पैसे नहीं. Right? So democratization of content has already happened. So I personally feel EdTech is like the climb of Sisyphus. They are उनको वेंचर कैपिटल नहीं मिल रहा, उनको पैसे नहीं मिल रहे, वो बेचारा कहता है कि कितने लोगों को नौकरी देगा. So point here is what real problems they want to solve. So this is where I will stop. You know, this is a large. Only 10 seconds. Sir, one time.
Well, when it comes to venture capital funding, I'll share with you some vital statistics. We started with some $500 million way back in 2010. As of now, we have more than $16 billion of funding for EdTech, and it is projected to have more than $30 billion by 2031. So I think funding is not a challenge. I'm sorry to differ from you.
Yeah, Atul, so quick, like 1 minute, if we can just wrap it up, and then sir, 1 minute.
The biggest challenge, what I could see is the focus while learning, because the entire digital media and the content, the revenue-based model comes by the advertisements, and I do not know what my child is going to see. It has to be regulated, and it has to be quality content. When I say quality content, it's not about the vocabulary, the word power. The quality content will make the child understand what he is reading. They are the learning habits, and it will take time. Until unless the academicians does not pour their certain blood into EdTech, EdTech is not going to be successful. And India is a land of emotions and feelings, and EdTech will never bring emotions and feelings in a digital world.
Thank you. Sameer sir, your last thoughts?
So I'll just extend the answer given by sir. See, there is a difference between EdTech and YouTube. The content in YouTube is not curated. EdTech has curated content. You know, that's where it has a edge.
My point is not
My
point is not that. My point is that if a child is opening up a digital media, on the right hand side he can see the porn.
I am coming to that, sir. That's what the difference between YouTube. YouTube will play all that porn also.
Sir, we will have this conversation.
So here, what I mean to say, we still doubt the effectiveness of learning in EdTech. That's what I will finish it off.
Thank you, sir.
We still do not believe that learning is really happening.
Or maybe schools offer vector sex education so children do not have to go to porn sites to learn what that is.
That's brilliant, Sarji. Brilliant, to be honest. But thank you so much, panelists. I think we had a great session, and we have covered almost all the points of EdTech transforming the sector. So I would again request everyone to give a great round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much, everyone.